All right, folks, Vitek here from Wani. With us today, we have one and only Nick Holmes of Paradise Lost. How are you doing today?
Hi, very good, thank you. Yes, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm super stoked. I got the album yesterday, so just gave me
Okay.
24 hours. In fact, less than 24 hours to prepare for the interview. But let me tell you something. I heard it one spin and mind blowing.
Great stuff. Good to hear that, man. Cheers, brilliant.
You guys must be super stoked that obviously it's been closer to 2 years since the last one came out. So writing songs, excited for the new album?
Yeah, absolutely. We've only just finished mixing it. Actually, we've only just it's only been out. Well, I think we heard it about 3 weeks ago. It's literally the promotional trip's really close to the finishing the recording. It's usually not this close, so it's kind of strange. So we're still getting used to the final mixes ourselves. But no, we're loving it. It sounds, very happy with how it sounds and songs, and yeah, it's all good. We're looking forward to touring now, so we'll see what happens.
You chose the title Medusa. Now, the word itself has multiple meanings, but when we look from the overall perspective, there's a sense of depressing vibe, that sort of a misery vibe. Obviously, it goes well with the sound of Paradise Lost. What was the concept? Why you chose this name in general?
Well, Greg sort of inadvertently chose it. I mean, when he's writing songs, he just calls them any names that spring to mind, because just so we can differentiate between each song, and then eventually we write a title. But he called one piece of music Medusa, which I really like the title, but I had to justify calling a song that. So when I looked on the wiki page for Medusa, it says something about avoiding the eyes of the Medusa would be avoiding the depressing reality that the universe is meaningless, which I really like that sentence because it's the kind of thing I would probably write. So I thought, therefore, that justifies calling the album Medusa. So that's how we got to the title. So that was kind of nihilist viewpoint. I mean, I personally wouldn't call myself nihilist.
Exactly, that's what I said. It's got multiple ways.
Yeah, well, I do believe in things. I don't believe in any kind of religion, but I do believe in things. So, but yeah, it's it kind of stemmed, weirdly enough, I think he watched Clash of the Titans, the 1970s movie, which has a Medusa in that. As good as that film is, that we do on a basic purely on Harryhausen, models or whatever the things were back in the 70s. So
I totally get that. That's really cool to hear. And obviously, with the expectations play set, when it came out in 2015, everyone was spellbound. Everyone loved it, being the fans, the press, literally everyone had a great time with it. So for you in general, as a musician with such a high expectations from fans that, okay, let's see what Paradise Lost can do in the next album. Was that thing going on in your mind while writing songs?
I think when we did the last record, we did the song Beneath Broken Earth, and we wrote that right at the end of, literally, I think Adrian was tracking drums as we wrote that song, so he literally had to, like, a day to learn it and then record it. So, we sort of found that that kind of style, that's why we started the band. We started very much in the doom death thing, and I guess it was a little bit nostalgia, but it was, people always going back to the roots, but people have been saying that for the last 15 years, really, about our music. It's not necessarily a term we use. We're always moving forward, but I guess everything goes in circles, and you sometimes remind yourself of why you started doing things or why you chose a certain path in life. And I think Beneath Broken Earth did sort of, it was a little snapshot of why we sort of started the band in the first place. And the song came together really well, and it wasn't particularly perplexing to write it. It was just, and so we kind of just did more of that, really, and went down that path. And that's the result of the Medusa album, really, I think.
Indeed, it's the spirit of the old days, and yet you're still trying to push yourselves by not just rehashing what's done, but you're doing something which is purely maybe reminded you why Paradise Lost in fact became one of the biggest names in the metal scene, is because of you guys stayed true to the roots.
Yeah, we've had many musical meanderings. Of course, we've in 30 years, there's many, bands do stick to the same thing, but we've always, really not really done that so much. But I think kind of like thinking about the past. Now we've got like really modern productions and modern recording techniques at our disposal. You can make a really a really heavy, truly heavy sounding album. I mean, a lot of the production, I think, of the record is part of the reason why it sounds so powerful as well. It's not just the songs. I think the production's really, I mean, it kind of blows away anything in the early days production wise. With that said, we haven't used any samples. Everything's kind of, it's true drums. Everything you hear is what is played. I don't think there's any keyboards apart from the intro, to be honest. Everything's very kind of organically recorded, and there's a lot of time spent on getting the guitar sounding right. So yeah, it's hopefully a very sort of true album.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you guys didn't use any samples, and that's what even I felt when I heard the Greg's new album, the Val on Fire album. So there are no samples. So you guys are keeping that organic vibe, which is what fans love the most about Paradise Lost, is that gritty, those fuzzy tones that kind of stick to your brain while listening to this album. It's from the production point of view, you said that it has better as you look at the past and how the production on the previous albums were. So from that point of view, did the band take the ownership this time as a producer, or there was a third person involved with it?
Well, I think Gomez, who did the last two albums, he's very much a fan of more organic sound. He doesn't really like samples and loops and modern drum sounds. I think just because you've got the equipment at your disposal, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to use it. I mean, we've done albums, we've done many albums with sample drums and keyboards. I mean, we've done everything. I mean, and it doesn't necessarily, just because it's there, it doesn't mean it's going to make your songs better. Sometimes you have to do that to realize that. I mean, we've done plenty of albums that sound that kind of way inclined. Just because you can have a really nice cello sound, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to use it. I mean, we found that with some of the newer songs. We tried perhaps putting strings over them, but they just didn't need it. It just didn't enhance it in any way. But I mean, also from our point of view, it's about songs we can play live as well, because again, we've done songs that are great in the studio, but they just don't work live. So we just want to do an album that we can play everything live as well. That's obviously because playing live's what it's about now. You've got to play live. So yeah. So
yeah. The vibe of the songs remind me a lot about the Gothic era, the Shades of God era. It's got that vibe, which
Yeah, I mean, if someone has to pin me down to compare it to a Paradise Lost album, which I don't do that unless someone asks me, but I would probably say Shades of God it's like the closest kind of album, I think, musically, but again, it's hopefully slightly more advanced than that.
Absolutely. I love the bass on the album. It's clearly audible. It creates it has its own vibe. That's
it's got a like a real kind of grind to it, and I mean, it's a lot louder in the mix than a lot of our albums. It's definitely, a lot of people said about the bass as well. You can really hear it on this album, So I mean, that's obviously done on purpose as well. So
absolutely, I want to talk about this track called "The Longest Winter." The essence of the track is somewhere related to the mankind, somewhere that we as humans have screwed up. And somehow the life itself carries on in some form or the other. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, there's not many lines in the song. There's about 8 or 9 lines, but I mean, you only need an inspiration to kind of lead something in a direction for a song. What the lyrics are going to be about. I mean, I was just reading about the disaster, the Chernobyl disaster, and in the exclusion zone, 15 years later, there's kind of life was starting again in the forest, and the wildlife was really flourishing, and that was just purely because there was no human interaction to spoil it. But now they're sending in humans are going in hunting parties to hunt the animals again, which is just it's just typical human thing, It's just, I mean, the reason there was they flourished in the first place because they were left alone because of the nuclear spillage, and now they're going in again and they're killing animals again. So it's just sort of reminded me that the planet doesn't need humans on it to survive. It'll do just fine without us. We're just like a small part of it, and everyone's worried about the ozone layer, but it's only mankind that's going to get wiped out. The planet will deal with it very well, I'm sure.
Really cool, man. Now the length of the tracks, again, it's not about the only 8 tracks that are on the album. It's the length that carries on, and with the genre like Death Doom, where the repetition somehow seems to happen. There are elements on these tracks. Let me say the Fearless Sky. It starts with something more like keyboard, probably the only keyboard sample on the on the album. And then it moves on. It moves on to a different journey, different routes. It goes to Gods of Ancient. So the tracks kind of tell me that you guys didn't want to stretch it without. There has to be a reason why you went ahead and made these songs like an internal journey, one after the other, which is connected, doesn't feel disconnected.
I think for us, especially with like doom metal, I think you've got to sort of, it's like a sort of journey in a way, but I also think you've got to, if a song's going to be long, it's got to be interesting. There's got to be a few more parts to it, make it feel like maybe a couple of songs in one. I mean, from my point of view, I always like songs that started off a certain way, then they kind of wandered off on a journey, then they came back at the end, So it was like, the classic sort of 80s metal rock songs. I mean, Iron Maiden, practically all their songs do that. They just kind of wander off in the middle, then come back at the end, Yeah, so it's like you return to the village at the end. It's like, I mean, from my point of view, I always kind of like songs that did that, and I mean, I guess "Feel the Sky" is a little bit like that. It's the longest song we've ever done, but I would like to think it doesn't feel like it's 8 or 9 minutes. That's something else. If it feels like 8 or 9 minutes, then
that's where you feel that the song is getting stretched because of no reason. But on this, it's a different feeling altogether. I've been the first track itself I heard 5 times in a stretch because I was trying to get more into it, because for me the Valentine New album was a grower, and as I kept listening to this one, the Fear of the Sky, again it made me. I was skeptical at the first listen, then I went to the second and the third and started growing to me. So probably, is that something fans would relate to it, that this album won't directly hit you at the first spot? You got to give it a bit more tries to, grab the beauty present in it?
I think it's definitely, it's not as instant as the last album. I mean, like No Hope in Sight is a very catchy instant song when it starts. I do think it takes about 3 listens to get it. I mean, the songs are catchy on this, but they're just not catchy at first. And I think a lot of that's because of the speed of the songs and the kind of the heaviness of the songs. But I mean, even the growling vocals, there's hooks there that we sort of worked on making them catchy, even though they're growly as well. So it's everything's there. I think that's in the last album, but it just takes a bit more. Like you said, I think it takes a bit more time to discover it. You got to get a few more listens. But I mean, I remember when I bought Master of Puppets, I hated it at first, and then about a week later, I couldn't listen to anything else. So it's
indeed. Now, Adrian left right after the previous album was done, and now you have Waltere, who's joined as, he's still a session member, right?
No, he's in the band now. Yeah, he's on the photographs. Yeah, he's taken the average age down of the band quite a bit, so we're really happy with that, as well as his drumming as well. So
Awesome. That's really good to hear. I love the fills he brings into the album, especially when you have a doom genre where it's kind of stagnates, but he brings in his own ideas that on the album. How was it for you guys? Because you guys are so used to Adrian being one of my favorite drummer, and you have someone like Waltere joined in. How did he meet your expectations on this album?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very lucky with. I mean, all our drummers have been very skilled musicians. I mean, Waltere's he's got a kind of his inspiration is very much because he's a young guy, he's only like 22, so he's kind of grown up listening to a whole vast range of different drummers from different genres, and the extreme metal music, that's going to be an influence for him as well, which was never around when we were young. It was kind of like Cozy Powell and Neil Peart. That was about it, and a few others maybe. But yeah, he's had a vast range of influence. And bearing that in mind, he's incredibly versatile. He can really turn things around. He can do pretty much anything you ask him to do. And he's for such a young guy, his playing is pretty outstanding, really. I mean, he can improvise really well. Yeah, he's a really, really talented guy. And for someone so young as well, it's pretty amazing, I think.
Absolutely, man. Words cannot describe the feeling or in fact any Paradise Lost fan get when he listens to your vocals. I mean, you gave your best on the previous one, and you kicked everyone's ass on Bloodbath album, and on this you got even better. I feel this in fact is your best vocal performance. When I talk about the gritty tone of your voice, you just hit the bullseye on this.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm blushing. Cheers, man. Yeah, I mean, it's about. I mean, obviously, when the riffs are really dynamic and the kind of slabs are like kind of evil kind of tunes, you've got to kind of put a growl over it. It just doesn't. Anything else doesn't sound as good, you know. I mean, the thing is how we write now. I will do a clean voice, I'll do an in between voice, and I'll do the growl voice. And usually over the heavy riffs, there's only one voice works. You know, it's got to be the. I mean, it adds another. It's like another instrument, really. You know, I mean, it's like the cherry on the top. I think it just when you do a clean voice on a heavy riff, it just kind of it's lacking. You know, but I mean, obviously, there's a time and a place for the clean voice as well, and doing gruff vocals over the clean stuff doesn't always work. All over the clean guitar stuff. So, yeah, but it's. Yeah, I've had good fun recording this and doing the big kind of screams and all that. Yeah, it's I always loved to do that when I was a teenager. So we kind of brought a lot. I thought actually I did too much. Actually, I had to cut some out. You know, I was so. But yeah, it's yeah. There's lots of that stuff going on. So.
And what are the plans of Bloodbath? Has anything been discussed, or it's currently in the background?
Well, I mean, we've got a few things over summer at the festivals. I mean, I think we're meant to be starting work on a new album, but I mean, it's going to be quite scattered because obviously the guys are busy with Catatonia and Axe is busy with Opeth, so it's and then I'm going to be off busy with PL. So I mean, whenever we can fit anything in, we'll fit it in. But obviously, when it's ready, it's ready. You know, in between we'll be doing gigs, doing the kind of the best of set for the want of a better word.
Absolutely, man. So if you had to sum up the record, Medusa, in a sentence, what would you say?
I'd say it's probably. Well, it is Paradise Lost's heaviest album, without a doubt. You know, just Paradise Lost's heaviest album, without a doubt. I think that's a decent enough sentence.
Pretty much sums it up, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's you know, everyone sort of says their album's the heaviest, but if you go through our entire catalogue, it definitely is the heaviest album. You know.
Awesome, man. Before we conclude, I don't know whether you're into grunge, but the death of Cornell definitely shook the entire music world. Was he anywhere related, or maybe some sort of an inspiration back in '90s when grunge was the big thing?
Yeah, I was a massive fan of grunge. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say grunge per se, but I was a massive fan of Soundgarden and Nirvana as well. And so yeah, no, I was incredibly shocked by it. Yeah, I saw Soundgarden about 6 times. From the first time they first came over to the UK, same with Nirvana as well. But yeah, no, it's really, really sad. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a thing with the Seattle. I don't know. I mean, yeah, no, I was kind of pretty speechless, really. He had a massive, and especially back then. I mean, so many amazing songs. Yeah, I was really, really sad. You know, it's such a shame. You know.
Indeed, depression can never be figured out from the face of a person. I mean, here you meet a person who's happy, smiling, but you never know what's happening deep inside the heart, and eventually one day you figure out that he's no more. So that's kind of shocking.
Yeah, I think with especially like Chris Cornell's case, because he kind of looked like a very kind of outwardly happy guy, and he didn't say. I mean, with Kurt Cobain, it was a bit different. You could sort of see, there was kind of cracks in that. You could see definitely, but yeah, with Chris Cornell, it was kind of a shock. I just would never have thought. Yeah, it's like I say, it's a big shock, I think.
Indeed, man. Well, best of luck for the release, man. 3 more months, and I'm sure you guys are gonna crush everywhere. Tour everywhere. I'm gonna hope you get to India sometime next year, at least.
Yeah, man. Well, I really hope we can do this time. Yeah, it'd be great to come over there. So, yeah, well, thank you very much. It's great to talk to you. Thank you.
Cheers, buddy. You take care of yourself.
And you, mate. All the best.